Okay. Yeah, I think the screen appears now for you. Yeah, so first let me briefly introduce myself. Thomas Steiner. I work as a Chrome developer relations engineer at Google. And together with my colleague François Beaufort, we worked on solving a problem that big pages and small pages have, but it's definitely more hard for big pages like google.com that get a lot of traffic. What is the thing we want to solve? So the thing is, Google now has a dark mode. If you go to settings at the bottom of your Google page, you can enter search settings, go to appearance, and then say you want to have dark theme always, light theme always, or device default. And device default is tricky because device default is connected to things like your system preferences. On your system, you can have dark mode always, light mode always, or, and this is the interesting one here, auto. Auto means whenever you have your night shift, as Apple calls it, setting, switch to night mode, your operating system would automatically switch to night mode. This means for sites like google.com that want to adopt to these settings, they can't rely on a cookie just because they don't know at what time your auto settings have switched. So you may make a search at 6 p.m. Still in light mode, and at 6 p.m. and 1 minute, your system may have switched to dark mode. And of course, you can imagine at the size of Google, at the traffic of Google, we run into the trouble that ideally we want to deliver the slightest possible page experience. But yeah, we can't really do that if you don't know the preferred color scheme that you have, which might be changing, as I just said. So depending on if the user has set auto on or off. So the thing is here, Google, as you know, is a pretty lean site. There's not much on it, but eventually there's a lot of CSS that still needs to be loaded, and loaded in a way that is dependent on dark mode or light mode. So if you just imagine all the different ways that Google can surface results, its images, its maps, its shopping results, it's just regular results, it's all the kind of one boxes. So if you have something like a sports one box that shows you the results of an ongoing game and so on, there's a lot of CSS that will be needed, and it will be needed in a way that is either dark mode or light mode. So what we did is I'm glad that Yoav was having this session before, worked on something where we would unearth the user's preferred color scheme as early as possible. And you all probably know the user reference media feature, which is prefers color scheme. But this requires the page to have loaded until you can evaluate either with JavaScript or in CSS what is going on. So ideally, as I said, at the traffic of Google and pages similar to Google, we want to have this before. And so what we did is we came up with a way, as I said, to unearth your preferences locally. And I want to briefly show you what we have here. So you can see I'm filtering on the document. So when I load google.com, as you can see here, this is the URL of google.com. The browser sets, the server sends a header, and it tells the client, hey, by the way, I'm accepting the client's hint, sec.ch prefers color scheme. And actually, for me, this is a critical client hint, which means traffic will be dependent on the response that the client sends. And then you can see at the very bottom, if I scroll down, what my client is sending here. It's telling the Google server that I'm locally preferring dark mode. If I switch to light mode now, you can see my operating system changes. And upon the next, it's blocking a bit, beach bowling, just a sec. Okay, I think it's slowly propagating. Yeah, so let me try to reload now. I can see Google is in light mode. And if I look at the same thing now, go to the very bottom, you can see sec.ch prefers color scheme light. So here we go, and this means the page has optimized automatically for my now changed theme, and this is what we have in the sec.ch prefers color scheme user preference media feature. So there's a spec for that. It's not just limited to the prefers color scheme that you can see here, but the idea is to take everything that we have in the equivalent CSS spec and just simply translate it over to client hint. So you can see there's something for reduced motion, reduced transparency, prefers contrast, forced colors, prefers color scheme that I just mentioned, and prefers reduced data. So all of those are listed here. Currently in Chromium, we have implemented prefers color scheme, thanks to Francois, who did the implementation. And yeah, it's a draft community report. We have an explainer as well. We ran through a tag review. We ran through Mozilla and WebKit position requests and so on. So we try to get an as holistic view of other vendors' opinion on that as possible. And so far, it's rolled out on Google. It's working really well as far as I can tell. We are using this for Google.com. So it's a staged rollout. If you don't see it yet, it will come eventually. We're also looking for YouTube to add support for this, because in YouTube, actually right now, if you switch themes, or even if you just load YouTube with a dark theme, what you can briefly see is the light theme. I'm not sure actually if I can quickly show this. You can see the light theme very quickly appear. So let me switch back to dark and then load youtube.com. Yeah, it still takes a long time to propagate. Here we go. So if I'm loading YouTube now, you should see, yeah, it's in cache now, but if I hard refresh, it's hard to see, but I do have a video recording of this appearing. So you can see that there's a quick flash of the wrong theme. And by implementing this, we could avoid these kind of issues. And yeah, that's essentially what we did and what is rolled out now. We're hoping for other vendors to yeah, be interested in this, because yeah, at the scale of pages like Google with the traffic that we get, it really does make a difference. And with that, I guess I can stop presenting and we can go to the discussion part.